The immigration crisis, the immigration problem that we have in the United States is based upon decades of exclusionist, racist immigration policies that have been built for decades around the ability for white people to migrate to the United States while excluding people of color.
Amy Fischer with Amnesty International, thank you so much for joining us today. First, I want to start by, you were there at Vice President Kamala Harris's home when the migrants arrived on Christmas Eve. Can you paint the scene for us?
On Friday, we received notice from our amazing partners at the border that the buses that were leaving Texas on Friday that were initially planned to go to New York were instead going to come to D.C. Initially, we heard that they were actually going to come on Sunday, on Christmas Day, but our group has been welcoming the folks that are arriving from Texas for the past few months. And for the past more recently, like 2 months or so, they have been instead arriving at Vice President Harris's house. So we sort of did what we always do when we know buses are on their way, is mobilizing our local response to be able to ensure that we have people there to welcome the buses with friendly faces, and then have a space where people can go to get good food, get the resources that they need, and help with support wherever they're choosing to go next.
Amy, I'm curious to know, as someone who has been helping migrants who have been bused from Texas and Arizona to DC since April, what were your thoughts when you saw the 140 migrants and refugees just dumped off in front of VP Kamala Harris's home on Christmas Eve?
We always hear from the migrants that they find the buses to be helpful, but it's in those moments that it's a really stark reminder that that is by no means the intention of Governor Abbott. The Governor Abbott is trying to do this with the worst intentions, to the point where, when we knew they were going to end up coming in the evening, we knew it was going to be so cold. We had reached out to say, it's freezing, it's going to be dark. Can you instead drop the bus at the respite location? Could you drop the bus instead at Union Station, which is more centrally located? And they said no, that they would only drop the bus sort of in the upper northwest area of the city in front of Vice President Harris's house, to do nothing more than make a political statement grounded in what we know is racist and xenophobic and invasionist rhetoric.
Amy, what do you say to those who think along the same lines as Greg Abbott and believe that the U.S. has to do a better job of controlling the U.S.-Mexico border, and don't believe his actions of busing migrants and refugees from Texas to D.C. are a racist act?
The people that are arriving on the buses are exercising their human right to seek safety, and that is a right enshrined under both U.S. and international law. So this idea that this is a problem, the idea that there is some kind of criminality or illegality to the individuals that are coming on the buses, is blatantly false. And instead, what Governor Abbott is trying to do is force people out of the state, and really sort of advancing this invasionist rhetoric that's grounded in white supremacy, of saying these people are invading the state of Texas, and that's why they have to move to northern cities, and is trying to make this point that in any city where they go, they're going to be a burden and overwhelm. And the opposite is true, that we are continuing to expand our capacity for welcome, and that's what we need to be doing. And I think the other thing to just say is that the busing program is part of this larger Operation Lone Star that Governor Abbott is doing to, for the people that are not on the buses, others are arrested, detained, criminalized. We've heard stories of people being beaten by Texas Department of Safety officers at the border, and it's part of this entire regime by Abbott and his administration in Texas to maximize the cruelty to people arriving at our border.
Amy, I want to read you a quote from White House spokesperson Abdullah Hassan, who said that these political games accomplish nothing and only put lives in danger. Do you agree with this quote?
I don't at all, because the reality is groups have been calling on the administration to support with transportation for migrants at the border. The Biden administration is continuing Title 42 and other policies at the border, policies of exclusion, policies of deterrence. And what we're seeing the Biden administration do is really play into the hands of Governor Abbott. And instead of standing up a real nationalized welcoming system and investing in community-based solutions like we have in D.C., they're instead fighting in the media with Governor Abbott rather than investing in these solutions that we know we need.
So it's clear that you believe the U.S. has an immigration system problem. Who do you think is to blame? The Biden administration, or are others responsible as well?
The immigration crisis, the immigration problem that we have in the United States is based upon decades of exclusionist, racist immigration policies that have been built for decades around the ability for white people to migrate to the United States while excluding people of color. And so, yes, the Biden administration is to blame. Yes, the Biden administration inherited a lot of problems from the Trump administration, but these issues that we're facing are not new.
Lastly, Amy, can you just talk to us about where are the majority of the migrants coming from and why are they fleeing their home countries?
Here in D.C., we've received many migrants from Venezuela who are fleeing real political insecurity, real economic hardship, violence. We have, on the bus that arrived on Saturday, there were a lot of people fleeing Cuba, Nicaragua, Ecuador, Dominican Republic. People are fleeing real violence. They're fleeing real insecurity. They are arriving with the hope of safety. They're arriving with the hope of security. And what we've found is that people are really have a lot of desire to make this their new home, their new community. And what we have seen since we've been welcoming people to our area since April is people that we've been able to build wonderful relationships with these people and really celebrate with them and eat new cuisines and build new friendships and build new community. And I think we have to see it not only as an obligation to be a nation that is welcoming and accepting of people seeking safety, but also see it as a value add to our communities.